Welcome to Warrior 2 or Virabhadrasana 2. So essentially this is a lunge pose that's similar to Warrior 1, but instead of the chest facing forward in that sagittal plane, the bent leg here is rotated externally, directly out to the side with the arms abducted and parallel to the ground in a frontal plane. So the spine is perpendicular to the ground with all the natural curves intact. So the foundational focus here is to root into the heel of the flexed leg, anchor into the heel of the outer edge of the extended leg, evenly balance the grounding energy in both of those legs. So when you're talking about the foot placement, this is something that's really going to be different from teacher to teacher. You'll find that some like to align the heel of your front foot to the heel of the back foot. And then some say would like to heel of the front foot with the arch of the back foot. However, this is what you're going to find that you've got to teach the body who is in front of you. So for instance, someone with tighter hips will probably find the heel to arch alignment more challenging, whereas the heel to heel would be slightly more accessible. So when I'm bringing my back foot forward and align the heels, I'm reducing the opening of the hips. Equally, the angle of the back foot, again, that will change the opening through the hips. So some teachers like to teach that back foot at a 45-degree angle, and then some like to teach at a 90-degree angle. No further, because otherwise it starts to go out for the knee. So the more the foot turns out, the more of an opening there will be through the hips. So cueing to externally rotate the back hip without rotating the foot as well, you're going to be putting some damage or some pressure on that knee. So you really want to be allowing or not allowing that rolling either, because that's going to drop down and again putting pressure on that crucial ligament or that crucial medial crucial ligament. So the grounding down to the outer edge of the back foot, the lifting and the engaging of that medial thigh, all of that pressure will be taken away. So think about what alignment best serves your student. Think about the foundation working all the way up. So through the feet, checking in from the front foot to the knee, back foot to the knee, checking onto the hips. So sometimes hips are either out or they're rolling or they're tucking. Again, a lot going on there. The closing of the rib cage, the shoulders over the hips, the head over the part of the body, arms out, no soggy arms. Sometimes you'll see this arm is really going for it and then this one, or it goes this way. There's quite a few things that happen here. Drishti, straight down that middle finger, out in front of you. If there's any issues with the neck, again, just keep it on the body, keep it soft. Because it's a standing pose, you want to be working from the foundation all the way up. Use the verbal cues first. So, checking in with the feet. Maybe it's a leg and a half distance apart. Heel to arch alignment or heel to heel alignment. Do what works for you. For me and my knees, the 90-degree angle of the foot is better versus the 45, because then I've got a lot of pressure on that knee. Firming up through the kneecaps, making sure the hips are square, and then the shoulders. Another thing I forgot here is the rib cage. Close that rib cage down, engaging through that core, pulling up through Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandha, so Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and then closing down that rib cage. And then you're going to start to get a really strong position. So let's look at it when we've got a student in front of us. So when looking to adjust your student, I'm going to ask Gemma to come in towards Warrior 2. So placing your left foot forward and make it a little bit wider, a little bit longer. Perfect. Ooh. Perfect. So we're going to look at the foundation here. So I'm going to check in with Gemma. I'm going to have a look what's going on. Yes, I can see arms, but remember it's got to be from the foundation up. So I'm looking at her feet and looking at the stance here. So for Gemma, what's working for her is the heel to heel alignment with the 90-degree angle of the foot, and that's perfectly fine. I can see that the knee is slightly rolling in. So ways that we can help her with that is coming in front of her, either kneeling or being up. However, you're really wanting to get down to where she is at. So, because the knee's slightly rolling in, I can take my hand just on the outside and ask her to guide her knee into my hand. Perfect. Some students you see, and I'm going to make Gemma do this, is getting the knee to overshoot the toes. Now what I can do here is gently guide her back and then stay there. If she was rolling in, which she did before, placing the hand here and guiding it into my hand, and if it was going too far the other way, again placing my hand here. That is all you need to do, so you don't physically have to grab onto that leg. Then I'd go around and have a look at her back leg. Jem, you can bring your hands to your hips just to relax those for a second. So, some students, you'll see that rolling and that collapsing in that knee, causing a lot of damage here. So simple cue for me personally, I would just place my leg onto, or my foot onto that lifted part of her foot and gently press it down. Obviously don't stand on your student's foot and crush her toes or anything like that. It's just a gentle pressure to find that grounding. Another thing that you can do, Jem, if you could do the same thing for me again, please, so just roll, is you could come on down. No awkward grabs. You're not physically going to go and grab that inner thigh with that awkward, weird grabbing. It's got to go with that clasp or the fingers together. And it's just on top of the knee, just by the quadricep, not any higher, because it can be really awkward then. So placing my hand on here to firm up that quadricep, placing my hand onto the foot, and then guiding that leg to have that little bit more strength and openness through that hip as well. So that's a great assist to do there. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to have a look at her hips. Now her hips are looking pretty good here. Some students, and I'm going to throw Gemma off balance here, so just be careful. Some students have their hips like that because that knee's rolling in. Okay. You fix that front knee, you fix the back leg, and it's still not going great. You can come up behind them. Coming up behind them, remember, you've got to say, Gemma, I'm coming on to do a hands-on assist, is that okay? Because you can't just come up and then physically assist them because you could throw them off. So making them aware that you are there. So, I wouldn't come into the same position as her and have my front part of my body touching her back body. Again, it's weird and it's awkward, don't do it. Come with your hip to her back hip. Gemma's shorter than me, so that works. So I could come down a little lower. When they're taller, you can come up a little higher. Now I'm going to come in with almost that pincer grab onto her hip bone here, and my other hand coming around toward her knee. And I'm having that wider stance here as well. And all I'm doing is pressing my hip or the top of my thigh in toward her back and her hip, and then gently and then guiding her into the position, having that little bit of pressure onto the hips, so pulling that hip around as I'm bringing this knee around, and that will square that part up. I could just come in front and say close the rib cage down, so bringing that in, yeah, and that worked perfectly fine. The next thing is you see is the arms. Sometimes they're shifting too far forward because they're really into that pose. And you could just come behind them, take a hold of the hand and just guide them back. Or if you don't want to touch them, if you could go back to where you were, is say, Gemma, would you just look back at me and bring your fingers to touch my hand? Great cue, simple as. If the shoulders are like that and the arms are a bit like that, you see that a lot, you could come in. My arm comes around underneath their tricep to her shoulder. Be careful, don't go any lower, and again, have that full closed grip. And the other hand underneath, coming into that little bit of a further away warrior stance, holding and having a nice little bit of a grip here, and then sliding away. Perfecto. Great. Closing down the rib cage, looking down. If her shoulders were up by her ears, which you can try and do for me, so raise them, you could just simply, and then nice and long, and then step away, check in with your student, and an A for effort. And that's all that you need to do with this position. Fabulous. Thank you, Gemma. So remember, right and left, I've only done it on one side, so if you are going on the other side, hopefully they've remembered all the cues that you can do. Try and do all of the verbal cues first before you physically go in and touch that person. So see how it works. Good luck.